G'day everyone, Aussie Shooter here, and I've got this story from the Herald Sun on the internet. Now when I read stuff like this, I simply cannot believe that I'm living in the country that is doing this to its citizens. And I shake my head in disbelief, and I just wonder what on earth is going on in the minds of these politicians who pass this sort of stuff. But here we go again. This is a story from Victoria. Cops to use license to disqualify anyone guilty of anything. And the Herald Sun has printed this story, and it goes on to say sweeping legal changes which came into effect on September 30th allow courts to suspend or cancel the license of any person convicted or found guilty of any offence, regardless whether that offence has anything to do with their driving. I just find this absolutely unbelievable. And it just goes to show you the lengths that the politicians are willing to go to make you pay for a simple fine. They're quite happy to destroy your livelihood and quite happy to destroy your freedom of movement for the sake of some tiny little misdemeanor that could be handled differently. And I just can't believe that, you know, this is the country that we live in. It's a complete police state. And even still in New South Wales as well, they have the power to take away your driver's license for all sorts of minor little infringements that absolutely have nothing to do with your driving. And I just think that's amazing. How on earth do these people think that that sort of power is justifiable is beyond me. But anyway, they keep doing it. And I really wish I didn't have to read these sort of stories. I wish I could report on something really positive, but unfortunately, guys, there's really not much out there. So anyway, I've got also today's paper. And I mean, that's a shocking story. I just still can't get over it. But moving on to today's paper, we've got the Tuesday, November 26th in the Telegraph. Here you go, right there. Have a look at that. And this is Dark Terror. Rapist dragged victim to gloomy lane with no CCTV. And now this is a topic that I'm very passionate about. If you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I'm a strong supporter of being able to defend yourself, being able to carry something to defend yourself with, especially for those really vulnerable people in our community, the women, the elderly, and so on. So anyway, this is basically a story that illustrates all the beatings, the rapes, and assaults that are being carried on in all sorts of streets in Sydney, and especially with that recent young woman who came from Belgium here for a holiday. Within 3 days of being in the country, she was raped. I mean, it's unbelievable, man. It's turning into a real shocking state of affairs in Sydney. Now, the politicians are calling for more CCTV. They're calling for better lit streets and a whole bunch of other things. They want to spend all this money on all this stuff, but not one person is, saying, well, let's give the people the power to defend themselves. Let's give law-abiding citizens the ability to actually carry something and be able to defend themselves against these vile criminals. But no, that's just too extreme. Let's just spend a huge amount of money and blanket the entire city with CCTV cameras. That's what we want to do. That's not extreme. This is what they're saying. They basically want to turn Sydney into like London. Now, I've been to London many times, and I'll tell you right now, it is a nice city, but I feel like I feel claustrophobic every time I'm there. Every lane, every street you go to, there's a camera on you, and I'll tell you right now, people think it deters crime. It doesn't. It just pushes it away to different streets and different areas. And there's certainly streets in London where you wouldn't want to go on your own at night. And it's extremely a violent city. There's a lot of violent crime there. It's a very low murder rate in London, but a huge amount of violent crime. So, and I certainly don't want to be living in a city like that. But anyway, they want more cameras, more lighting, more this and that, whatever, anything but giving people the self-respect and the right to defend themselves. And here we go in the same paper. We've got Tim Priest. Now, Tim Priest, as I reported on a lot of his stories before, I think he does a lot of good work. I think he tells it as it is, but I do believe Tim is somewhat restraining himself from telling the full story. He's either being censored or he's censoring himself to give people the Australian version of what things really are. So anyway, here he is, Tim Priest. He says, Sydney needs a zero hero. This is the story, also November 26, today's paper and Telegraph. And basically he talks about the success of New York and how they've turned their city around from being a crime haven back in the 90s to a very peaceful and pleasant city. And it's basically due to their no tolerance approach towards street thugs and crime. The police are quite heavy with anyone who is disrupting the public peace, and also they lock them up quite quickly and get rid of all the troublemakers, which I don't disagree with. I think it's a great idea. I think we need very strong policing on the streets, especially if you're a drunken lout who's being completely antisocial, or you're a junkie that's a danger to yourself and others. Yes, get them out of the streets, definitely. But what Tim Priest fails to acknowledge, and it's a very important fact, is that New Yorkers and Sydney-siders are chalk and cheese. New Yorkers have the right to defend themselves, and many people in New York do carry pepper spray on them at all times, especially the women. You will find that at least 1 out of every 2 women in New York has a can of pepper spray in her purse, and this is a very, very good deterrent for any would-be criminal. So that is a major difference, and that's why also their crime rate has fallen. And it is, of course, because of the heavy policing, but it's also because it's a different culture there. People believe they have the right to defend themselves, and rightfully so. Here in Australia, we also have a right to reasonably defend yourself, but you simply don't have a right to carry anything to defend yourself with. So how on earth is, for example, a 60 kilo woman going to defend herself against a 100 kilo man is anyone's guess. But anyway, so Tim Priest, you write some good stories, but you simply don't go all the way and tell the complete truth. So it's a well-written story, but this simply doesn't say that the New Yorkers fundamentally have the right to carry things to defend themselves with. So anyway, guys, they're the stories for today. Unfortunately, not really great stories, but nevertheless, it's important to know about them. It's important to speak about them and to discuss them with your peers and talk about new ideas and how we should improve our way of life here in Sydney, in New South Wales. And always important to talk about these things and make sure you always fight for your freedoms and your rights. Don't let these politicians take it away from you. And I'm Aussie Shooter signing out, and I'll catch you later.